Hola a todos, hi everyone. Hoy vamos a aprender cómo pronunciar las R's en español. Dun dun dun. Everybody gets scared when we talk about R's in Spanish, but don't worry. Today I'm going to show you that it is very possible for you to make a lot of progress with your R's with practice, I promise. So let's start off by breaking it down. You may already know that there's a difference between the word caro, expensive, and carro, car, because there are two types of R's in Spanish. So this first one, in caro, we'll call the tap, because the tongue taps the top of the mouth. And this one, in carro, we'll call a trill, because we can call that vibrating sound, the rrr, a trill. So, in the words caro and carro, as well as the words pero and perro, we see that the difference in the letter R makes a difference in the meaning of the word. So, pero is the conjunction but, and perro means dog. So here we find either type of R within words. And this is actually the only place where a difference in the R will make a difference in the meaning of the word. That is only if the R is in between the word will it make a difference in the meaning. And that's why this is the only place where we see a spelling difference. Right? If we see one R in the middle of the word, we know it's a tap, like caro. And if we see two written R's, like carro, we know it's a trill. But there are other contexts where we can clearly learn which sound to pronounce. So let's start with the tap. If you have an R at the end of the word, like flor or inventor, it's going to be a tap. People can use a trill at the end of the word, but that's just for emphasis. So if I said una flor with a tap, that means a flower. And if I say una flor, that's just emphasis. It still means a flower. I'm just clearly very excited about the flower. Alright, so let's move on to the trill. If an R is the first letter of the word, like rosa or rojo, it's going to be a trill. Rosa, rojo, we use a trill because it begins with the letter R. Another time we're going to use a trill is if an R comes after an L, an N, or an S. For example, Enrique, alrededor, that means around, or Israel. So after N, L, or S, we will use a trill. Alright, so I know that might seem like a lot of information at first, but I'm going to tell you two secrets that will really lessen your anxiety about the R's in Spanish. Alright, first of all, you already know how to pronounce the tap if you speak American English. You might not know it yet, but I'm going to show you that if you speak American English, you pronounce the tap every day. And the second secret is that a lot of research has shown that even Spanish speakers don't always pronounce the trill. In fact, some speakers never pronounce the trill, and some speakers don't pronounce it up to 90% of the time. The thing is, it's a difficult sound to produce, but it's not as difficult to produce something that sounds a lot like it. So, instead of saying Israel, maybe people will say Israel and almost get to the trill but not quite, and you can't really tell a difference. So just keep practicing with your trill, and if you don't get it right every time, it really is not going to make too big of a difference in the perception of your speech. What is going to make a difference is if you pronounce the English R, right? If you say Israel, the English R, that's going to sound bad. So just throw the English R out the door and try your best with the trill. If you don't get it exactly right, no worries. Alright, so I told you that you already know how to pronounce the tap. Are you skeptical? Well, let's take a look at the word little. Little. Now in British English, we would say little, or something like that. I'm not British. But in American English, we say little. It doesn't sound like a T. In fact, when we say it fast, little. It's actually a tap. Little. Let's see an even better example. Let's look at the sentence, a little pot of tea. A little pot of tea. Let's say it fast. A little pot of tea. A little pot of tea. Just pot of tea. Pot of tea, pot of tea, pot of tea, pot of tea. Faster. Pot of tea, 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 pot of tea. See? Pot of tea? It sounds the same. You can make the tap. So if you're having trouble, just practice saying pot of tea really quickly. Pot of tea, 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 pot of tea. Pretty cool, right? Alright, so let's practice it with some other words. ¡Qué caro! How expensive. Pero es bonito. Pero es bonito. It's pretty, but it's pretty. Mejor una flor. Mejor una flor. Better a flower, or a flower would be better. Me encantan las flores. Me encantan las flores. I love flowers. Alright, let's try that conversation again. ¡Qué caro! ¡Qué caro! Pero es bonito. Pero es bonito. Mejor una flor. Mejor una flor. Me encantan las flores. Me encantan las flores. So just keep practicing with sentences like these. Words that have one R in the middle of the word, or words that have an R at the end, and you just want to tap the tip of your tongue up to the roof of your mouth quickly, like we do when we say little. Alright, moving on to the trill. Now, like I said, it is a complicated sound, so I'm going to break down what happens when we make this sound. But again, if you can't get it at first, don't get frustrated. Just keep practicing and you'll pronounce something that's like a trill, and then with practice you may get there. So first, how do we position our tongue? Well, the tongue is going to be curled upwards, so the tip of the tongue is curling up towards the roof of the mouth. The lower sides of the tongue touch the insides of the back teeth. You're not chomping down on it. It's not between the teeth. It just rests upon the inner edges of where your teeth are. And the tip of the tongue touches the ridge before the palate starts to slant upwards. So if you can take the tip of your tongue and feel on the roof of your mouth, you'll feel a hard ridge before the rest of the roof of your mouth starts to slant upwards, and that's where the tip of your tongue is going to be positioned. So now, what happens when we pronounce the trill? Well, the bottom of the tongue needs to be tense, but the upper part has to be relaxed enough for the vibrating motion to occur. And then, when we exhale very strongly, we create a pressure in our oral cavity that is down through our trachea and coming out of our mouth, and that pressure from the strong exhale is going to initiate a vibration. And when the pressure reaches its highest point, the tip of the tongue that's touching the roof of your mouth will give way and lower down very briefly. which allows the air to pass through, and then it will quickly return to its original position, touching the roof of the mouth. And then the cycle repeats. So now just position your tongue curled upwards, the lower sides of the tongue resting against the insides of your back teeth, the tip of your tongue touching the ridge of your mouth. Take in a deep breath and exhale strongly. Alright, so let's try in words. ¿De quién es ese carro? ¿De quién es ese carro? Whose car is that? Este Enrique. Este Enrique. It's Enrique's car. ¿Y de quién es ese perro? ¿Y de quién es ese perro? And whose dog is that? Este Enrique también. Este Enrique también. It's Enrique's too. Alright, so that's advanced, but just keep practicing. Just practice the strong inhale with the tenseness in your lower tongue. We'll read it one more time. ¿De quién es ese carro? ¿De quién es ese carro? Este Enrique. Este Enrique. ¿Y de quién es ese perro? ¿Y de quién es ese perro? Este Enrique también. Este Enrique también. Alright, so to finish off, we're going to try using both the tap and a trill in a complete sentence. So let's try saying this car is very expensive. Ese carro es muy caro. Ese carro es muy caro. Or another one, I don't have a cat, but I have a dog. No tengo un gato, pero tengo un perro. No tengo un gato, pero tengo un perro. So in the first perro, we have a tap, and in the second perro, we have a trill. No tengo un gato, pero tengo un perro. Gracias por ver el video. Thank you for watching the video. I know that the R's can be challenging, so I'd love for you to subscribe and leave me a comment to let me know if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer them. I tried to keep this video kind of short, so if you want some more detail, I'd be happy to answer that. And also, if you'd like to see more of my videos and more materials that I use to teach, some fun things to practice with, you can visit my website at www.estudiafeliz.com. And thank you for watching. Good luck. Keep practicing. Be patient with yourself. And just know that even if you don't pronounce the trill exactly right, you can still make a lot of progress.